when you look at these movements of empathy, they're not really movements. They're just kind of these odd. It's not really a philosophy. Like, I like. How do I put it? I don't exactly agree with veganism. I like that it exists. I like that there are people that care, that do that, that follow that philosophy, because I think the existence of something like that philosophy can, because that's a general human trait for empathy. And I think that needs to be applied more broadly to a whole lot of other things. Like, um, I want them to be visible forever. I don't necessarily want them to succeed at their desires. I don't think humans should be necessarily eating mushrooms instead of cows, for example. And there's a lot of subtle things that I could talk about. And it would just involve me actually there, because there's a way of thinking that most humans can't do that I can, which involves being evil. Most people don't want to just be evil and say, I don't care, or say we have to, right? Most people won't make arguments like, well, that's well and good. You can live your own life that way. You must never ever be allowed to threaten my freedom. And having that discussion in that way is something that people tend to not be able to do very articulately, very eloquently. I should say a little more eloquently. Um, but I'm glad that exists, because that's at least a starting point for the next kind of thing. Like, it's kind of a joke for me to say that there needs to be a vegan version for vegetables. But there kind of does, because humans in general have the capacity for empathy in a greater sense. But it's they're all disconnected little things. It is one idea. The idea, like the vegan idea, is caring about things with pretty brown eyes. Like, okay, well, yeah, that's easy though. That's easy mode empathy for creatures that we think are cute, right? It's the cute argument. But it's very it's I hate saying that it's very specific, and it can be applied more broadly. We can see something like environmentalism as being very much the same. And it's Gaia worship. It's empathy towards these ideas of these systems that we still don't really understand very well. But we want to love things. We want to imbue that sense of spirit on a massive, complicated system, and we want to pretend like we're gods. And it's just like the ethics of GMO. It's just like the ethics of breeding animals. It's just like the ethics of breeding philosophies into other cultures. For example, it's we want to play God. For whatever reason, we can point at things that are dubiously correct and say, well, it works over here. We should apply to all of civilization everywhere, to all humans until the end of time. They must be oppressed into this philosophy. It's like, well, that that seems very that seems very wrong. That seems very colonial of you. That seems like slavery. That seems like oppressive, dictatorial. It seems like every other despot. It's just wrong. It's wrong on so many levels, because it's something that needs to. It's not something that can be forced. It has to happen naturally. It has to happen until it's a part of a culture without people being lunatics about it. And there's far too much of these ideas of empathy, and it's the strangest thing. You can imagine a person cares, they imbue spirit into something, but they themselves become the opposite. They become unempathic towards anything that isn't empathic. So the people that are neutral in general become enemies, which doesn't make a lot of sense. You think if you had that empathy, you'd try to instill that empathy, not. Anyway, I see a connectedness to a whole lot of these different ideas just via empathy, via this some form, something like animism. And I like that veganism exists as a solid enough philosophy